Good morning, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for November 3rd, 2022, around 10 a.m. Eastern Time. We have a lot to talk about this morning, including a new tropical cyclone that could be forming close to Florida over the next couple of days. Could this spell big trouble? So let's go and jump straight into everything. Taking a wide look across the tropical Atlantic this morning, we noticed that we have two tropical systems active right now and two additional systems that could be forming in the Atlantic basin over the next couple of days. First of all, we have Hurricane Martin way up there in the North Atlantic, almost at the top edge of your screen. That is moving away from land, no threats at this point. We have Tropical Storm Lisa dissipating over Central America, and these two other tropical systems that could be forming in the Atlantic basin, maybe one closer to Florida. We'll take a look here at Tropical Storm Lisa briefly. We notice that the system has lost much of its energy over the train of Central America. This is expected to re-emerge back into the Gulf of Mexico over the next day or so. However, conditions will be only marginally favorable, and this is expected to dissipate by this weekend as the system follows the low-level flow potentially back into Mexico. Of course, this made landfall yesterday in Belize as a strong Category 1 hurricane, causing some pretty substantial damage, but this is now on life support this morning. So with much of the forecasting done for Lisa, we turn our attention to the Atlantic basin where two other systems could be forming. We notice in the GFS 850 millibar vorticity, or the spin in the atmosphere at 5,000 feet off the ground, we have two systems that kind of slingshot around each other over the next couple of days. One system forming up there in the subtropical Atlantic, diving westward closer to Florida, and another system that kind of develops in the Caribbean and gets pivoted around this much broader system near Florida. And this is going to set up for a very sloppy, complicated forecast with many moving parts and potential for impacts. Now, looking at the shear off of the GFS, we're looking at the 300 millibar wind and mean sea level pressure. We notice that there is pretty strong wind ongoing right now, significant amounts of wind shear across portions of the southwestern Atlantic basin, and that is very prevalent this time of the year, but it indicates to us that the potential for significant development into a major hurricane is not entirely likely. And we can see even at the end here that the shear does weaken, but there is still some with that southern subtropical jet that is encroaching on the Gulf of Mexico and Florida. This creates a little bit of shear over top of our system with, just all of the other environmental factors. And the fact that this is now November, we start to not really expect major hurricanes. However, this definitely could be a sloppy system. And of course, just because this isn't a major hurricane does not mean that it cannot bring substantial impacts. And one of the reasons why I say that is because if we look at the 10-meter wind field here off of the GFS forecast, we notice just how much wind energy there is in the lower 10 meters of the atmosphere. And so what this indicates to me is that not only is it going to be very breezy, but if you actually look, this is generally onshore flow that is occurring across these areas. And what this indicates to me is that there could actually be some very significant beach erosion, some coastal flooding issues. I mean, we could be talking about potential for some storm surge off of this. And again, you think of storm surge being associated with these powerful hurricanes. Well, it can be associated with coastal lows as well. Just think of nor'easters up there in the northeast US. You could have those type of situations too. So even though this might not be a major hurricane, this still could pack a punch. And if we actually take a look at the wind gust forecast, this is wind gust at the surface according to the GFS forecast. We notice that some of these winds could actually be quite strong. You kind of notice when the storm system starts developing and you kind of get that initial surge of wind moving into Florida, and then it kind of just resides across portions of the southeast US. You can see near 50 miles per hour there near Charleston, South Carolina, 20 miles per hour near Orlando, 35 near Pensacola and Destin, and of course 40 miles per hour up there close to the Outer Banks of North Carolina. So this could be a significant storm surge, coastal flooding, and beach erosion threat. Now looking at the precipitable water forecast off of the GFS, this shows that a big moisture plume indicated by these red and oranges colors here. These indicate that there's a very significant moisture plume associated with this potential system that will be moving in across portions of Florida, and you can see it even spreading well away from Florida too. This could be a very substantial impact to a lot of areas: South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia, potentially even up towards Virginia. Basically just a fire hose of moisture being pumped in around this broad hybrid system could cause a lot of issues. So aside from the issues in the tropical department, this is a look at the United States weather today. First of all, most of the U.S. is actually pretty quiet with the exception of the Midwest and traditional tornado alley. Today we have a slight risk for severe storms across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, and that will shift eastward tomorrow with an enhanced risk across portions of Texas, Oklahoma, kind of the Texarkana region. Potential for some very significant tornadoes. And in fact, we actually do have a team out there that will be covering this, and any footage we do get, you'll be able to see here on our channel. No live stream, unfortunately. However, we will be bringing footage if anything does happen out there. So make sure to stay safe. And of course, I'll have an update on the severe weather aspect of everything later today. So with that being said, I do hope you have a great rest of your afternoon, evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley, and I'll be talking to you guys again some more later.